is your hind leg. This is the outside. The inside is here where the cut is through the hip bone. This is a shank I like to keep for shank cuts, like ossobuco cuts, which is traditionally made with veal, but you can do it with venison as well. On the front, you're going to have your sirloin. You're going to have your two rounds, top and bottom rounds on the sides, and you're going to have your eye of round in between them. Around that, there's a bunch of smaller muscles, but the four big cuts are going to be sirloin, top and bottom round, and then the eye of round. The other pieces, and then the shank. The other pieces you can basically scrap for burger, or you can keep. Some of them are more tender, and you can actually use those for things like steak chunks for shish kebabs and things like that. Also for stew meat, I usually use out of the hindquarter. Nice chunks of fat off the outside. Nice thing about leaving fat on when you first do it is that, and these little membranes, is if you drop it in the dirt or whatever, you can just leave that on there because that's a good barrier. It's a good bacterial barrier. And then when you go to butcher it, you just cut it off. So leave all the dirt on the outside. Alright, so the first cut I'll do on the back leg is I'll remove the shank. So you come in, you find where the Achilles tendon was, and you'll find a gap. So I'll find and I'll just cut, and I'll just go into the natural seam between the muscles here and go up to the joint. Also cut the top of the joint, which is further than you might think. Use the back of your blade and find where the bone ends, and then you can cut into it. A lot of the joints in a deer's leg overlap bone to bone, so you're not going to be able to get a knife straight through. You're going to have to cut around the edges and twist it open to finish the cut. Another thing to do is start bending. You can see where this bone ends and that bone ends, so you know where the border is between them. Goes on the shank. So now when you've removed the shank, I'll go to the inside and I'll look for the edge between the sirloin and the bottom round here. There'll be some little muscles in the middle. Another thing I also start with is I'll find the end of the bone. That's the end of the bone. Do a little rainbow cut at the end of the sirloin. Don't follow it all the way around or you'll cut the bottom of the round here. Just do the sirloin as a starting point. Find your way in between the muscles. You can see here's a round and here's a sirloin, and there's this little guy in the middle. Don't worry about him. Find the seam, and you should be able to use your fingers to help you. And go gently. So you see it, there's still the edge of the sirloin here, and I'm trying to follow the natural seams between the muscles. And you also know the bone's here and the bone's here. So I know I can use my tip on my boning knife and follow it down the bone, so I know where the bone's going to end up. And again, my goal here is, much like the front leg, I'm going to go all the way around the bone. I'm going to take all the meat off the bone before I separate the big cuts. So again, if you're following the seams, you can use your hands a lot. One thing you're going to find in here is the femoral artery. right here, this white thing. If you follow it down, you'll also find a lymph node in between the muscles. You want to cut it out. This is the sirloin. Again, it's got a membrane on the front, so you can peel it out of it almost. So now here we've removed the sirloin. We have one round, we have another round, and we have this guy in the middle. This is the eye of round. It's also called the hidden tenderloin. This guy right here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the hidden tenderloin, I call it. And I cook it. I use the same recipe as I use for other loins. There's that. This guy. It's easy. And this little guy is sort of triangular shaped. There's him. So now we'll trim, and we've got our 4 big cuts. On this, one of these rounds, you have a thin muscle. It's not really part of it. You can trim it off. Okay. These are your 4 big cuts you get out of the hind leg. You have your top and bottom round, you have your sirloin, and you have the eye of round. This is the part that connects right behind the Achilles. This has got a lot of sinew and stuff in it, and this I just sort of grind. Some of these come from sort of the top, sort of the rump almost, and then a little bit of trimmings around the rounds as well. This is a little more pure meat in there, and so this would be better for stew meat and shish kebabs. The 4 big ones, you can either do whole, or you can cut into steaks. The eye of round's small enough, I just always do this one whole, and you cut little medallions out of it. But these, I always cut across the grain when I'm going to make steaks. So if you're going to make steaks out of one, the first thing you want to do is basically square it off. So to square it off, if it has like any kind of an edge on it, cut it square. And a thin feathering edge, tapering down, square it off. Get your big, nice knife for this one. Again, you go across the grain, get any little fat off of there. And I like to give it at least an inch. Make them nice and thick. I'll try and make it one smooth cut, because then you get a nice clean edge. Otherwise, if you kind of go saw, you get a raggedy edge here. And one thing that helps make a long smooth cut is having a very sharp knife. So either do a good job yourself, or like I said, you can use those disposable blade ones. It's more important to have a sharp knife than a big knife here, because sharpness is what will get you a clean cut. When you get the Achilles tendon or other tendons or highly sinewy material, you can save that for soup stock. If you put that with your bones, it has a lot of collagen and stuff in it, so that's the stuff that melts and makes it all gelatinous and good good old chicken soupy. So you can save those separately for that. And you get a big piece of flat silver skin off of the back straps as well that you can use for that. But the rest of this, right above the Achilles tendon, this is just burger meat. It's got too much sinewy stuff in it. It's not enough to make it, you know, soup stock, but it's too much to make it a good steak. So you just grind this one. So this is your sirloin. This is very good as a roast and as steaks. This is the one where you do have to treat it more like venison. You do have to cook them a little more slowly and gently. So they have a little bit of sinew in them. You'll see what I mean when I cut open. You'll see there's sort of three muscles together to make the sirloin. But your little rugby ball here is going to be sirloins, and sirloin steaks are some of my favorite. So I trim the end off, make sure it's good and square and not tapered. Pick a good width, inch and a half. And we'll go one smooth slice if we can. And here you can see the separation between the different muscles in the sirloin, and that can add a lot of flavor to your steak if you cook it nice and slow. Nice and slow. You see there's sort of three main, there's a core bit and then a couple of flanks on it. But best thing to do is salt and spice for 24 hours, and then let it come all the way to room temperature, and then cook it nice and slow, and that'll give you a good sirloin steak. There we go. This last guy is up to you. He's a little guy. This is a better steak than that, so I might just use this guy for burger. Alright, so this is some of the extra, not quite a big enough muscle to make steaks out of piece you get out of your hind quarter. And when it's pure meat like that, that I'll save separately. You can turn that into burger if you want, but I like that for stew meat and shish kebab kind of material. Nice pure chunks of meat. When it's clear red meat like that, that's what you need that for. And I do try and discriminate a little here. If it's just got a little white stuff on the sides, that's fine. But this, it's a little thick with it. I'll just use this for burger meat. If it's going to be a steak chunk, it's going to be pure steak. And you just can tell the difference because even a little bit of this connective tissue or fatty stuff, it just makes them tough. And if you're going to make something this big to put in your mouth in one piece, maybe two, maybe cut it once, you want it to be tender enough that it's not going to be an issue for you, and this will be fine.